A reporter fact-checked Donald Trump to his face yesterday, and Trump hilariously seemed to sort of point at her or someone else and then walk away. Let's set it up. Trump lies all the time. If you watch this program regularly, you probably know that. And one lie that Donald Trump has been repeating time and time again is that his administration's policy of separating kids at the border from their families, migrant children from their families, is the exact same policy that the Obama administration had. Trump says we're not doing anything differently than Obama's administration was doing. Now, in reality, where I prefer to live, there's a major difference, which is that Donald Trump is prosecuting people who show up at the border, including those seeking asylum, as part of a policy that's completely different than what Barack Obama was doing. So Trump drops this lie in front of some reporters, and then CBS reporter Paula Reid tells him that he's lying. He seems to either point at her or someone else and then just walks away, not addressing the fact that he has been fact-checked in real time by a reporter, not a fake news person, not an anti-American person, not someone who is being partisan, someone who simply says, that is not the truth. These are not the facts. And Trump just walks away. Take a look.
Paula Reid spoke with the president about this at the White House.
President Trump responded to the 60 Minutes report by repeating his claim that President Obama also separated families.
So I'll tell you what, Obama had a separation policy. We all had the same policy.
You did not have,
I tried to do it differently, but Obama had a separation policy, but people don't like to talk about that.
Sir, it was different. You decided to prosecute everyone at the border.
So this is what the media needs to do. Let's think about this in a few layers. This is what needs to be done, as I've been saying to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Trump's deranged and depraved press secretary, at every opportunity, real-time fact-checking, not allowing them to get away with these lies. The next question is whether this type of fact-checking convinces any Trumpists that Trump is lying. I think the answer is of course not, because one of the most effective attacks on American media in history has been carried out by Donald Trump. He's used this guise of fake news as the problem, which has primed the pump for his followers to distrust anything that's remotely critical of Trump or that Trump doesn't like. But I still think it doesn't matter, Pat. Even if the committed, devoted Trumpist is not going to have their mind changed by Trump being fact-checked in real time, the press should be doing their job regardless of what Trump's followers think. And that being said, part of why it's easy to do that is that most reporters don't do this. So if every reporter did this at every press event, it's going to become much more difficult for Trump to keep up the fake news narrative. They'll try, Pat, but if we actually had a sort of agreement among the presidential press corps, the people that sit in the press briefing room, the people that ask Trump questions, it is going to at least challenge the Trumpists to say, wait a second, why is he being directly contradicted about all of these things that he says? Maybe some of them aren't actually true.
I do like that, but there is an optics issue, I think, because of the power imbalance in that press room. Like, all the reporters are talking to Trump and they're saying, Mr. President, might I be able to ask a question? Or Mr. President, that's not appropriate. They're acting with this level of decorum. And then Trump doesn't respond in kind. He'll call them fake news. He'll call them out. He'll call them liars. And I think a lot of Trump supporters see that and are just going to side with the president and back him up at any case.
Yeah, I mean, the committed Trumpist at this point is effectively a brainwashed cult follower. I mean, it's like, we don't need to sugarcoat it anymore. That's what we're dealing with. You are dealing with a dynamic in reaction to Trump that is how brainwashed, devoted cult followers behave. But I still think that there are people who can be reached. There are people who are going to be embarrassed to vote for the guy that is called out for lying at every press event and looks like an absolute fool. And we really shouldn't even be arguing about what the effect will be, because this should just be the standard. It's only happening sometimes, but this is how every member of that press corps should be dealing with Donald Trump. And remember that there was that incident with Trump's ambassador to the Netherlands, Pete Hoekstra. He lied and fabricated out of thin air that politicians are being burned in the Netherlands and that there are police no-go zones. What else was it, Pat?
That was it, that there were police no-go zones in the Netherlands. Totally untrue, of course.
And he was called out about it by the Dutch press, and it was a shining example of how these people need to be dealt with. That's what you've got to realize. When they get called out on the lies, they can't defend them. They can get mad. They can walk away. They can clam up like they've lost the ability to speak all of a sudden. But every single reporter should be doing this, because otherwise they can target the reporters that do it. If it's just Jim Acosta or whoever, they can target them and make it seem like the problem isn't the press, it's just that reporter. If everybody says we are not going to allow him to get away with lies, we are not going to allow him not to answer questions in a real way, then it becomes much more difficult to for them to activate against those reporters without it being clearly an attack on the freedom of the press, which is exactly what it is. And another way to attack the press is to say we are going to take over the press with state-run media. And that's what I want to talk about next.